Alright, I think I got rid of the audio issues, and that's just great. And I covered the theory in the last video, so I will just start right off with implementing parallax mapping. Also, here's the height map, and every pixel represents a height. The brighter it is, the higher we are. Pretty straightforward. And I did something I did not want to do. No. Okay. So first of all, we can just reuse the normal mapping shader because, well, we are doing the exact same thing in that regard, just changing the texture coordinate. So we want a variable for our texture coordinate, and then we obviously want to use that here. I already have like everything set up to use it, and I've added a bit of extra code to the game one so I can change the shading technique on runtime. So just as a quick demonstration, here's our wall with just texture mapping. Then with normal mapping it looks like this, and with parallax mapping it looks exactly the same so far, because we are just using the normal mapping technique. Now I will comment the code as I go along because it's hard to keep track sometimes. So this is our basic texture coordinate. Now we do not need the light. What we want is the I vector. And at first we will try to go all the way back to that point. So what we calculate first is another float 2, which I will call delta. And delta is a float 2 of wait a second, I want to normalize that first. So float 3 I vector equals normalize input dot view direction. So this is our normalized view direction. Then the next thing is float 2 delta. The delta is how far we step along the lower side. So float 2 delta equals float 2, then minus the x component of our I vector, and I vector dot y, and we divide that by first our, don't let me lie, I vector x, I vector y divided by the I vector dot z, because I vector z is the dot product of our normal and this vector. So if we project this vector onto that vector, it will be this height. Okay? So we also multiply this by scale. The thing is, if our texture is 1 by 1, I mean, the texture coordinate is always between 0 and 1, and our vertex, or my quad in this case, what the heck is happening? My vertices in this case have a size of 20 by 20. So I want to have the scale of 20, there it is. So I can, or I know that if I move 1 unit in the world space, it is in fact just 1/20th of the texture coordinate. So I want to divide by that as well. So now this is our basic step width, and this is if we want to change the height by 1. So now we want to step back out of height map. This means that our texture coordinate will get delta added to it. And because of that, our texture coordinate is now the point at the height map where we are definitely outside of the height map. So it's this point here. And then we know that our float height equals 1.0 f. Since now we are at height 1, because our first texture coordinate would be at height 0. It's here. Now we step back all the way to here, so that we are at height 1, and definitely outside of the height map, or at the height map. But we cannot be below a point in the height map. That's what we want to do. Then for the next thing, we want to figure out how to step in there. So let's say float step width equals. Now we can just set a fixed width for the steps and say, okay, I will step 1/20th of the angle or something, and we're always stepping in relation to our height. So if our angle was very, very steep, like so, and our surface was like this, and we step down 1 unit, we will, or let's say 0.1, we would go this far down, but it would be that far in this direction. So we might want to scale it down depending on what our view vector is. So let's say our step width is this is hard to get right at first. We would have to tweak it a bit. So how high do we want to go with each step? We will just use a fixed one for now. Let's say 0.05 f. Oh, let's halve that, 0.025 f. So at this rate we would take at most 40 steps. But I guess it works. That's quite a lot of steps though. And then what we do is I don't like this, but yeah, I'll just go with it. Then we will use a loop so we can step through here, and that loop will run while I will define, I cannot do that, and okay, I will change this a bit. I will say steps equals, let's say 20, and then float step width equals 1 divided by steps, and float step equals 0. Then I will do while step smaller than steps. First I want to increase that step, and then here comes the part where we test our code. So our height here is height minus equals the step width, because at each step we go down that far. Step width. Then our test height, float test height equals I will put it to that here, but at this point it is text coordinate. Sorry, test height equals text to d of our offset sampler, which holds the height map, and the current texture coordinate. And at each step we want to add our delta to the texture coordinate times the step width. So texture coordinate plus equals step width and plus equals step width times delta. So far that's alright. Then if our current height is smaller than the test height, we break. So we set step to steps plus 1. And if I run it now, it should already work at least a bit. Let's see. Maybe it doesn't, and that would be bad. There you go. You can see it kind of works, but the offset is in the wrong direction. Not that great. I think, yeah, I need to negate my offset. I'm stepping in the wrong direction. So my delta needs to be minus that. Let's run it again. Now it should be the right way around. Parallax mapping. There you go. Now you can see this is already working basically, but we get a lot of artifacts. This looks really bad, right? But for now, this is basic parallax mapping and it's working. You can see the wall has a depth. So pretty nice. Didn't think it would look that good already. Good, nice. Nice. So now we might want to change the number of steps depending on how steep our vector is. So I will say steps times lerp 2 times steps and I vector dot z. Yeah, let's run it now. I hope it works. It might not compile, yeah, because now steps is a variable and it cannot unroll the loop. GPUs cannot actually calculate a while loop. Instead, the compiler will expand this loop to get this right. So I'm not sure if I put, whoa, yeah, equals lerp. I will put 40 here and 20 there. It might work now, it might not work. Last try. Okay, it failed again. So we cannot do it like this here. I could say while step smaller than 40, which is the maximum value. Now it should compile. Unless I forgot to set step plus plus. Now this is strange. It cannot unroll the loop. Okay, maybe 40 is just too high of a value then. Let's make this 30. And if that still doesn't work, too bad. If I put 20 here, does it work now? Okay. Let's say see parallax mapping. Still a lot of artifacts. But I guess we can improve this. Now this looks bad, right? Okay. We are done with that. Then I will just remove this and keep it like that. Okay. Now, what we will know in the end is we have a point here and a point there. So we want to keep track of our last point, and we want to break if our current point is there. So we will start with 2 more values. One is high, and that will be 1.0. And one is low, which will be the 1.0 minus step width. So this would be high, this would be low. In the next step we want this to be high and that to be low, and so on. So, well, we do not need to calculate low, we can just calculate high and then calculate low from it. So here high minus equals step width. So with each step we set high a bit lower. And then when we are out of the loop, we will also declare low, which will be high minus, float low will be high because we break when we are here, and then we just step back and say float. We just say high plus equals step width. So now our low value is this height and our high value is that height. And we also know the current texture coordinate, which is here. So what we do now is we have another while loop, and this time we set step to 0 and steps to 5. 5 is enough really to get this working pretty well. And then it's again while step smaller than steps, but this time we use binary search, as I explained in the previous video here. So we have our delta, and then we take the current texture coordinate and we step back first. So text core minus equals, and we also need another variable which is float. I will just call it factor in lack of a better name, which is high minus low divided by 2. Like this. So our step width is always in between high and low. And then we do texture coordinates minus equals. Here we always added it, but now we want to step backwards. So texture coordinate minus equals factor times delta. And now what we do is, and our height plus equals factor, because now our height is not here but there. Okay, so now what we do is, if height is smaller, wait, I can just set height to height, so we get rid of one calculation. If height is smaller than our test height, And first we need to set our test height. So test height equals text to d of our offset sampler at the texture coordinate. We already changed that there. And now if our height is smaller than the test height, so we are below this, then low equals height and test. Okay, first factor will be divided by 2. Then low equals the height, because now we want to, now we want to check between these two. Then our factor is half of what it was before. In any case, also if our line would end here and our height would then be there, it's always divided by 2. Then our texture coordinate will be minus equals factor times delta, because now we step upwards for our next test. And that's that for now. And the same thing here, except we do not need the if statement. And now high would be height, and we would add this. So if I run this now, it should look better if it runs. And there is an error somewhere. Unexpected token float. Oh, I forgot the semicolon. Another error. Like I said, it's sampler. It's pretty hard to keep track of everything that's going on. And it might be that I have too many steps now, which loop does not. What? Okay. Let's change that to 12 then. Did I change anything except for high equals height? I don't think so. Unable to unroll loop. Step smaller than steps. Step plus plus. I could set steps a bit lower still, but this is kind of strange. What if let's see if I set steps equals 1. Really? Now, unable to unroll loop does not appear to terminate in a timely manner. 1024 iterations. Something is weird. I mean, I add 1 to step, and it should just terminate in 1 iteration if I set steps to 1. So honestly, I do not know what the issue is here. Maybe it's something really stupid. Or it's just highlighting the wrong loop. Let's see, does it work now? Yeah. It will look really bad now. actually, it looks better than I would have thought. But yeah, you can see a lot of artifacts. So the next thing has to be like, let's say 20 steps. Okay, good. Now this is normal texture mapping, this is normal mapping, and this is parallax mapping. You can see there's still a lot of artifacts. Well. If I go back a bit, it looks better. But still, there seems to be something wrong. Just for now, I mean, I think I got across the basic idea. I guess I would have to tweak some parameters to make it look much better. But you can see there's additional depth, however it's pronounced, quite a bit. And the basic idea should be clear. I will go through the code again, and then I will try to find the mistake, make it look better, and then I will upload it again. Thanks for watching. Wrong. I want to close this.